Hi Booktube, I'm here with my review of Utopia by Thomas More. This was published in 1516 and it's a philosophical classic. Basically the book is broken up into two parts. I'm going to completely ignore part one because I think that there's no connection between the two really, and that you don't really have to read book one. It's kind of a waste of time. You can just read book two. And that's the story of Utopia. The first part, if you want to know, discusses the contemporary problems that Europe was facing in 1516, and one guy's extreme solutions to the problems, which has no bearing on the story of Utopia at the end. And it's not really a story, it's basically a guy telling you about this country. The perfect place, according to Raphael Nonsencio, our narrator. He basically lays out the philosophy, morals, religion, culture, political structure, geography, blah 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 of this country. It's very short. If you do read the whole thing, it's 113 pages long, not including the notes. Book 2 would just be just over 50 pages long, so you know, you can read it in no time. And you can skim parts of it, which is what I ended up doing at the end of it because it got really repetitive. Yeah, but the narrator doesn't always dwell on certain issues. He jumps here and there and kind of gives you like an overview of things. Yeah. What really frustrated me is that the second part is all just from Raphael's perspective, him talking. There's no interjections from More, who's kind of like built as a character himself, and I think that's really where this fails, is that we needed that other voice to question and to argue against the ideas presented in Utopia. I really like this translation. It's translated from the Latin. This is the Penguin Classic Edition, translated by Paul Turner. It was very easy to read, very much modern English, so, you know, easy to get into. Now I just kind of want to discuss the ideas that were presented in Utopia, and if you want to kind of discover this all for yourself, you might not want to listen in. Let's talk about how frustrating living in the world's happiest country would be. Utopia. First I'm going to talk about the good things. There's no money, which means there's no poverty, which means there's no rich people, there's no divide between the rich and the poor and the middle class and all this stuff. Everyone is equal, except for slaves, which we'll talk about later. Everyone is fed, housed, educated. There's religious tolerance. Euthanasia is practiced. There's a surplus of goods. Everyone has a job. Everyone is encouraged to pursue pleasure, wherever they find that. Women are expected to kind of do the same work as men, and there's free healthcare. Lots of bonuses, right? Sounds like a great place to live. Except for why it's able to maintain happiness. Constant surveillance and expectations and the way that they keep people equal means that there's no individuality. It's sacrificed for the greater good. It's not addressed. That's a conclusion I came to myself. Because if you want to think differently, in the book, no, that's exile or slavery. If you want to travel, no. Even if it's in your own country, you have to get special permission to do that. And even then, it's not a vacation. You have to do the same work as you would in your city as you would in another city. Right? Do you want to sleep with whomever you want to? No, that's slavery if you don't get executed for it first. You're feeling sad, you're feeling angry, you're feeling anything but happy. Well, you know what? That's impossible. It just doesn't happen. Because everyone's watching you and you gotta smile. Or else you're exiled or put into slavery or killed. Yeah. No human wants to do any dirty work. We all know that. No human wants to work in the sewers. No human wants to hunt and kill and slaughter animals. You know, all those little things that we don't find pleasure in. So let's have slaves to do it for us. And by slaves we mean criminals. We mean visitors, foreign people, if they want to live, they can come and join us, but they're not going to be equal to us, they're going to be slaves. There are people that we capture in war because, you know, we'll go to war, but you're not allowed stepping on our soil with weapons and attacking us. We'll transport that to another country. Are you a woman? Well, you know, you're kind of equal, except once a month you have to kneel before your husband and confess all your sins to him. He doesn't have to do that to you, though. Yeah, do you derive joy from gambling or from hunting or from wearing makeup? Well, too bad for you, because that's not allowed. You are no better than an animal. You are laughed at. Do you live a vastly different lifestyle in another country? Well, we're going to use you for mercenaries in the hopes that you all get killed and we can eradicate your culture from the face of the planet. Yeah, because you're no better than an animal or a slave. Do you have a mental disability? Well, that's all point and laugh, because the only thing you're good for is entertainment. That is stated in Utopia, this so-called perfect place. You know, there's no art. Everyone's wearing the same clothes. If you try and dress up, if you put makeup on, if you wear a ring, if you have something gold on, look, I'm gonna put on my gold watch, you are laughed at, you are seen as childish, so it's not encouraged at all. So where does art come from if you are constantly boo-booing beauty and discontent? Like, it's just, I understand that maybe in 1516 some of those things were more acceptable, but still, I mean, there's so much more. And even at the end, Moore says that, you know, he had questions and objections, and he thought some of the laws and customs of that country seemed to me in many cases perfectly ridiculous. However, I could see that Raphael was tired after talking so much, and I was not quite sure how tolerant he would be of any opinion that contradicted his own. So we're just going to end it there, and the end. That's how it ends. I think it would have been much better if those objections were raised during Raphael's monologue about this perfect place, the happiest place on earth, where everyone has to pretend to be happy instead of actually being happy. Yeah, I can go on and on and on. I still, despite these objections, think that this book should be read, especially if you're into dystopian literature, because it has such a huge influence on it. So, for example, 1984 kind of explains why constant surveillance is maybe not such a good thing, because that's what happens in the book, is that you can't eat by yourself. You have to eat with everyone. You can't go off by yourself. You have to be around people constantly to make sure that you're kept on track, that you work, that you're not deviating from the norm in any case. Or in Brave New World, which kind of extrapolates on that pursuit of pleasure and you know, perfect equality, you know, with deviations obviously in Brave New World, but kind of, you know, along the same lines. And I think that the book provokes you to disagree with it, as I have with lots of things, and to extrapolate more information from it yourself, and how it affects your opinions on all the issues that it raises. So yeah, that ends my rant on Utopia. I really do think you should read it, though it is worth it to slog through all the horrible things that they argue are good. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow with another review.